Welcome to a new Panzer Corps how to use heroes video. I thought with the upcoming release of the linked Allied campaign this could be useful. I have seen a few tiering lists on other games, and one of the things that tends to bother me is this sort of a random nature. You pick a this or you pick a that, and then you move it over to the category, and you end up not really knowing where you are or how long it's going to take to get to the information that you're looking for. Maybe you just want one specific hero or one specific item, and you have to sort your way through an hour and a half or 2 hours worth of tiering listings and such. So to cut right to the chase here are the tiers relative to the playstyle that I enjoy. This is not so much for, say, Spanish Civil War in 39, where you want to encircle, suppress, and surrender, capture, Kleptokrieg style of warfare, but more for the 40 and beyond, where you just start to attack, advance, and blitz and overrun the enemy due to increasingly divergent attack and defense values. This style, or these heroes, are grouped for, again, my play style, which is more involved with tempo, timing, positioning, and agency of decision making, as opposed to encirclement. Again, as I said, I generally don't like the logistics. It's very popular on a lot of the boards. People complain about the logistics of the system. I like them exactly the way they are, personally. Be all that as it may or may not be, let's get right down to the hero analysis. Most of the time is going to be spent on the S and A tier heroes, although the others, I'm going to touch on them shortly. These are in no particular order. The first one on this list of S tiers, a very potent hero, double attack, and we're going to take the ignores entrenchment as well, as both of them are on the Rudel hero we're about to investigate. Okay, you can put a double attack on artillery, you can put it on a ground unit, you can put it on a recon car. Essentially, you can put it on any unit at all. Most effective in the air on, say, a strat bomber or attack bomber. But if you had a surrender recon car with, say, a 4 hero configuration, you could put it on an auto surrender with envelopment, overwhelming attack, no retaliation, and if you had the 4 heroes, you could plop one a double attack and you could surrender 2 units per turn with any given recon car with phased movement. Very useful on artillery, not so much on tanks, not so much on anti-air, not so much on infantry. The thing has phased movement, again, it's possible, but mostly you want a double attack on a tac bomber or a strat bomber. This tac bomber has ignores entrenchment with Rudel. It has double attack as well, and the double attack is very simply unit gets 2 attacks per turn. The ignores entrenchment ignores enemy entrenchment. Unit's accuracy is not affected by enemy's entrenchment level. So let's say that I didn't want to traipse my recon car all the way over here and wanted to come down in this direction for whatever the reason. I could send this unit down and plop a round or 2 into this unit, and then use the second. This is double move. I could double move away. Over here, we'll get to double move at some point. And now I've essentially am able to come down and address this aspect of the field next turn, as opposed to having to take an entire turn to rebase, and then the turn after that I would be able to deploy. So double move is quite useful in that manner, but we'll get there. You'll see this unit is still entrenched 8 of 10. All I did was ignore his entrenchment. I didn't eliminate his entrenchment. So that was double attack, and ignores entrenchment, most useful on a tactical bomber. Let's say I didn't mind having this pioneer go over there. I could finish that unit, finish that, and then think on my far northeastern aspect of the field here. I have a King Tiger tank here with ignores entrenchment, rapid fire. Rapid fire is also on the S tier list. That essentially will give you 1.5 more shots In this case, it'll raise a 15 strength to effectively having a 22 strength worth of offensive fire. So what I can do is I can overrun these units. This unit here is an engineer, doesn't matter, it's entrenchment as we ignore it. Now here, in this particular mod, we have heavy infantry, and innate characteristics of heavy infantry in this mod means they have ferocious defense. It means the entrenchment can't be ignored. So if I wanted to take out that unit, I would have to first get adjacent to it, but second I'd actually have to be able to do it, which at present I can't, and there's really no way to do it. Even with a flame tank, its entrenchment simply cannot be ignored. That's where this lethal double attack bomber comes in. We have lethal attack, half of the suppression will be converted to kills. We have the double attack, it means it's going to get 2 attacks. And we can just stroll right up there. We don't even have to be adjacent to it. We'll just put it down. That means our last round I can use here to dispatch that bunker. I can go here, get out of dodge, and send this anti-tank up to take over that airfield. That's the power of ignores entrenchment, double attack, and a lethal attack. We're going to see lethal attack and rapid fire throughout the coming description of these various heroes interacting with the battlefield, so I'll not get too deep into it right now. This brings us to the rapid fire trait or hero. Rapid fire is both a trait and a hero. In Spanish Civil War in 1939, the B tanks and C tanks come with rapid fire 1.5x, irrespective of whether you have a hero placed or not. It's nice. Later on, you'll miss the rapid fire, so you'll be acutely aware if you're not clocking any rapid fire heroes. What they'll do is they'll multiply your attacks by 1.5x. And as this one is consolidated, this is going to be the equivalent of a 30 strength tank attacking into these units. That's essentially 2 overstrength B tanks for 1. What that's going to do is allow me to simply overrun this character and then almost overrun this unit. If I apply a bit of recon there, I'm sure I can turn that 14 into a 15. You'll note base shots 20, effective number of shots 30 due to the rapid fire 1.5x, meaning this unit is gone. Will bother me no more. Once you move past the point when your units have innate rapid fire, you have to start placing the heroes. This one has a rapid fire 1.5. This flame tank has a rapid fire 1.5 as well. So we'll note here, if we were to send this H tank down to engage with this 3440 tank, we're doing 3.8. If we send this H tank down, we're doing 1.5. It's even less. The reason being is that this H tank has a tank killer, whereas this one does not. This rapid fire J tank, however, has both tank killer, consolidator, and rapid fire, and it's able to completely overrun the 3440. However, it's not faring quite as well against the slot here because they're entrenched, which is why we brought our flame tank along. Go down here, we can dispatch the slot. We'll go up there and still not do it. We'll provide a bit of enticement, and then we will run it. So this tank would be a block. We want to clear a path to that tank. We'll go down here, provide some reconnaissance, clear that bunker, swing forward here, make sure that tank goes. Again, these two tanks would have both had to attack that tank there. One of them would have ended up damaged, whereas at this point we took no damage at all. But it does require the rapid fire heroes. On a wide field, sometimes you can put a rapid fire hero on a tactical bomber and clear these areas without having to worry so much. So you can send a tac bomber off. There were 3 or 4 units here. I've just been tac bombing them away. We're done there. We can carry on back over in this direction. That's rapid fire. Rapid fire on a non-tank unit essentially is just 1.5 times the number of attacks. It's not nearly as potent or as relevant. Just plop it on and you'll do more damage. Maybe you'll completely obliterate a plane that happens to swoop by or fly by. Rather than doing, say, 12 of 15, you'll do all 15 of 15. It's nice, but it's not game-changing or anything. On to what may well be the most overpowered and least appreciated hero in the game, the Provocateur hero. Been looking around at some old saves for an appropriate Provocateur demonstration. So what is a Provocateur and why do I want to use it? Provocateur is a hero where adjacent enemies attacking other friendly units will attack this unit instead. So really you want to place this unit. I have meticulous planning so I can bounce up here adjacent to a fragile unit. This infantry here is reasonably fragile relative to this tank, especially if I move my anti-tank down here. That makes that infantry a much more appealing target, so this tank will probably attack it and be redirected at this Provocateur unit, at which point it's going to take 6 points of damage. This infantry here was going to finish my bunker. Instead, it's probably going to head down here and attack this anti-tank unit, but instead it'll be redirected here to the Provocateur unit, and it'll take 7 points, and the Provocateur unit will take 2. Let's click the button, and we'll see what happens. Cleared a mine. Gravity attack. Okay, so there we go. One provocatized. A bridge engineer came down, attacked my anti-tank, no problem. Looks like that tank tried to attack into that infantry and was provocatized. This anti-air came and tried to attack the anti-tank but was provocatized as well. So there it is. The joy of the Provocateur unit is they did that on their turn, and now they are not feeling so well. What we can now do on our turn is overrun them. So they're all gone now, essentially. 3 units are toast, whereas if I had attacked into any one of those given units, I wouldn't have been able to destroy them in their entirety, and I would have had to take other means, like use a recon car, go up and attack into it, whereas now my units are free. I can go up here and go ahead and dispatch this one as well. So that was a wreck waiting to happen. Instead, there's nobody left because of one unit, the Provocateur hero. Next on the list is Shock Tactics. Shock Tactics hero can be used on the ground, in the air, on an artillery piece. It doesn't matter, it has a range. First, we'll take a look at the grounded version with overwhelming attack. Put it on a ground unit and automatically force a retreat. And with shock tactics or envelopment, if a unit does retreat, it will surrender. So let's say I want to surrender or dispatch this S-35 tank. These things are difficult to damage, fairly hardy. This anti-tank does reasonably well against it. That's going to be about all, and it's still only really doing, what, 6 points there. There's really not a lot of ways to completely finish it without bringing in some air or other units. This unit here, on the other hand, bye-bye. It's gone now. An arguably better way to use shock tactics is to place it on a ranged unit such as this artillery piece or a strategic bomber, and have it go out and attack various units. Let's say this unit, I damaged it heavily last turn. It's essentially at its minimum entrenchment value. The entrenchment here is going to be 4, so when I attack it, this 5 will go down to 4, meaning that it will retreat. If I use this shock tactics artillery piece here, you'll note that when attacking, pins an enemy unit in place by destroying all of its movement. So if it doesn't have any movement, it can't retreat and will surrender. What that means is we don't have to do much of anything. All we need to do is apply just a bit of damage. And now this unit is all suppressed except 1 point. It's 17 of 18 suppressed. We can move half of a recon car over there, do 3 points, dispatch the unit, causing a surrender and gaining quite a bit of prestige as well. You can place this on a strat bomber, an artillery piece. They work about the same. The artillery piece has to be at least somewhat close to action. The strat bomber can move from further away. I don't have a strat bomber in this particular playthrough, but it's exactly the same. If I were to strat bomb this unit, its movement points would be deleted. The problem with strat bombers is they can get rained out and they'll be grounded, whereas this thing just churns it out one turn after the next. Here's another example of the shock tactics hero. This one is on a early 39 bomber, a DO-17Z in the Grand Campaign Breakthrough at Sedan. If you played the scenario at all, you know that these units are somewhat pesky to dispatch with the hardware material that's available at the time. There's not a lot that can be said to them per se. They're heavily entrenched. This unit is entrenched as well. Let's go over and de-entrench him with the unit that has a shock tactics hero here. We're going to go ahead and bomb him and remove his entrenchment. We've also applied 6 points of suppression, which means he has 8 left. If we do 2/3 of that 8, which is going to round up to 6 points, he will surrender. There's 6 points right there. So, 1 unit down and a bunch of prestige in the bank. Shock tactics on a strat bomber is very effective, as you'll know. Next on the list here is 0 slots. It's fairly straightforward. If you place the 0 slot hero on any unit, it will cost you nothing relative to core slots to place it. It's quite useful. It's not quite as useful as some of the offensive ones, in my opinion, such as double attack, ignores entrenchment, rapid fire, but it's about on par, generally speaking. The only problem is that you need units to place. You can run into unit clutter if you're seeking experience or awards points, such as like the +3 hard attack or soft attack. You have more units that you need to experience up, but generally it's a very potent hero, and you never complain about getting it ever, really. Next up, we find the camouflage hero. What does a camouflage hero do? Essentially renders the unit it's placed on invisible to anything but recons or adjacent ground units. And if an enemy unit doesn't know that, say there's an artillery piece there or an anti-tank or an anti-air, they'll charge headlong right into the formation and essentially implode. You can dispatch as many units as you have ammunition, really. Camouflage hero is contender for the most overpowered hero with the provocateur. The difference with camouflage is enemy recon can light up the unit with the camouflage hero and make it essentially useless, whereas the provocateur dynamic, it doesn't matter if they see it, it doesn't matter anything relative to recon or other units. If you place a fragile unit near a provocateur unit and the enemy has capability to attack the fragile unit, they generally will. They'll get redirected to the provocateur unit and either be destroyed or heavily damaged, at which point you can mop them up on your turn. Not to talk down camouflage, it's probably the most or second most potent hero in the game, so let's discuss it further. Why camouflage is probably a better hero generally speaking than the provocateur, and both of them are potent because they incite the enemy to break their entrenchment or move toward you on their turn. You do damage on their turn, and then you can follow up and mop them up on your turn. But the provocateur hero, if you get one, you're good to go. If you get two, it's like, well, I really want to run my entire game around provocateur, but it's nice to have two. If you get three, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's nice. I don't want to run 3 or 4 or 10 of these provocateurs, whereas camouflage, the more the merrier. I have this camouflaged 15 centimeter artillery set right here, and I have these fragile units essentially all around it. I have another camouflaged anti-air here with lethal attack and expert attack. I'm not sure the enemy has any air left in this scenario, but they should receive a bloodbath when they attack into these units. So we'll see what happens. Let's go ahead here. Looks like they bombarded my artillery piece. It's no problem though. There we go. Double shot there. And more carnage for the enemy. Sometimes they'll break entrenchment. In this case, they didn't. I was hoping some of these heavily entrenched heavy infantry would come down, or these engineers, or this anti-air, but they didn't. They could, generally speaking, they often do, but now we have this heavily entrenched unit. We can now de-entrench him and then overrun him if we wanted to. This unit here would simply just stroll up and overrun. This unit is not quite as simple because he has a ferocious defense. The good news is we can just go ahead here and de-entrench him and overrun him as well. That was a heavy infantry, 10 of 10 entrenchment. In this mod, these heavy infantry are very challenging to displace as they have the ferocious defense. So luckily this guy was already mostly suppressed, and all we had to do was de-entrench him just a bit and then overrun him. It's over for him. What would have happened here if he hadn't have damaged himself badly, we would have taken 3 and done none to this unit that was just right here. That's camouflaged. None of these planes cross this river to come and try to bomb my artillery, but that surely is possible and often will happen if you place a camouflage unit on a artillery piece like this. Lethal attack and expert support certainly add to the carnage. Camouflage works very well on the 88 centimeter or 8.8 or whatnot, because those things always take artillery fire. If they're on the field, the enemy is going to fire at them because they're so fragile, and they cost quite a bit of prestige. Whereas these units, they have a higher ground defense, they're more mobile, they're tracked, etc. But if you can get a fast deployment and a camouflage on an 8.8 centimeter anti-air gun, with field repairs, even better yet, you can really keep the thing churning out anti-air for quite some time and do a horrendous amount of damage to the enemy's air force. That brings us to a consolidator and no retaliation, both of which we're going to take a look at right now. Operationally speaking, the consolidator unit is fairly straightforward. It just adds another 5 points. This one would max out overstrength at 15. The consolidator allows it to go up to 20. Presently, these two units are almost just a tad off of being completely overrun. The only reason we're not taking a horrendous amount of damage is because this unit has a no retaliation. If it didn't, it would read like 715 or 815 or something, and it would be something that you would never consider doing. But here, on the other hand, we have the ability to move up and enforce some recon, giving us a complete overrun. And in this case, it's a 016, but it would read as 716, which turns into, well, 016. And we can now pivot down here and attack into this unit. Have a singular recon plane, and I believe that we can pivot and turn that to a overrun as well. So this unit won't be healing up. Its entrenchment, the 10 of 10, won't be relevant for any unit going forward, as is gone now, so we don't have to think about that unit at all in any way. That's really all the Consolidator does, just adds more attacks and makes it a bloodier affair, unless of course you happen to be on the offense and you overrun the enemy, in which case it's not really so bloody, at least for you. In hindsight, I forgot to include the key point of the Consolidator of this 0-15 or 7-15 as it would have been or could have been. If this were a normal standard 15 over strength, ignores entrenchment, vigilance sea tank, it wouldn't have gotten the 0-15. It would have been more like 0, say 11 or 12. Even with the recon, I could have gone up, attacked the unit. I would have taken 0-12, but the unit would still be there, and I would not be on my way elsewhere. So the Consolidator does a lot more than just cause more damage. It allows you to ping pong and force lever up into 2 overruns, and now you can move elsewhere, as opposed to you did some damage here, next turn you have to attack again, you come down here, attack into this unit. If you just had the 15 strength sea tank and you're stuck again, and then turn after that you finish this unit here off, and then you're on your way. Whereas we took 1 turn, we got both. Next turn we're off on our way. Okay, we just looked at the Consolidator unit on the ground in the Spanish Civil War. I have another scenario I pulled up. We have a consolidated Tiger tank. I'm not really sure what's on it, but generally speaking, the Consolidator is usually better on the ground, and the No Retaliation, the last of the S tier heroes, is usually going to be better in the air for various reasons, which we're about to see. This plane has a hit and run, which is almost as good as a No Retaliation. You just have to have more initiative. And as we have a hero that adds +2, and this is a 190A, we have effectively a 10 initiative against this plane's initiative of 3. So we can sail or fly right over there and completely dispatch. What I want to do is clear a path to this anti-air weapon or anti-tank, so that I can bomb it or attack bomb it away and not have any trouble. Normally, you wouldn't want to send a limited stock BF-109Z out to attack one of these, but since it has the No Retaliation hero, as well as ignores entrenchment, it'll take no damage in return. The problem is that we don't want those things turning into anti-air weapons and then firing at it, because it's limited stock. So we now have cleared the path so as to move here, dispatch you. We can go down here and dispatch you. We have a readiness. If you have a no retaliation, you usually can sort of want to have a readiness with it, although it's not really required, especially on a limited stock. You could do without the readiness. You just have to have a fighter escort, and even then, the enemy generally in 43, 44 and beyond and whatnot has a lot of wandering mobile anti-air weapons, which will come up and cause you to repair. What you really don't want to do in the air is repair. That's the reason why No Retaliation is so key in the air. You notice I took no damage with any of that. The reason it's key is because on the ground you can overrun the enemy, and then you get an extra action, meaning you can fully repair your tank. There's no such overrun in the air. So when you take damage, you can ignore it. You won't be at full strength. You can take it again, and then at some point you'll have to repair. But really you want your air units at full strength at all times, or at least as often as possible. That is all of the S-tier heroes. We have quite a few A-tier heroes we'll go over. And the further down the list we get, the less time I'll take explaining and or showing screenshots, because they become less complicated to use as well. Okay, let's address the A-tier heroes. A lot of these are going to be ones that augment a given unit's combat abilities. Butcher will add 5 to the soft attack versus infantry. Crippling blow will add 5 to the attack against completely undamaged units. Tank killer will add +5 hard attack against tanks. And that's the size of the augmentations there, at least for the A tier. Before proceeding, we should briefly discuss combat. As this is a heroes video, I'm not going to get too deep into it. If you have, say, 2 15 strength tanks, and they attack one another and they have equal stats on either side, say a 10 hard attack versus a 10 ground defense, you're going to get a roughly 40% kills, 20% suppression, and 40% will just deflect off and miss. For each point of hard attack that Tank A has above Tank B's ground defense, you get 5% more kills. So if I have an 11 hard attack attacking at 10 ground defense, I'm not going to get a 40% kill ratio, I'm going to get a 45% kill ratio. Further down the line, if I have, say, 8 more, an 18 hard attack against a 10 ground defense, that's going to be another 40%, 8 times 5, so it'll be 80% kills. And if you get 11 or more, it's just straight all kills. It doesn't matter, no suppression, no deflection, just all kills. So the unit, you have a 15 strength unit of, say, 21 hard attack, and it's attacking a ground defense of 10, experiences being equal, you kill all 15, and that's the end of that unit on the defense. So as you'll note, these butchers, crippling blow, tank killer can be quite potent. Take, for instance, this fairly mundane sea tank. It has an innate rapid fire. I placed 3 heroes on it, a butcher and a tank killer, as well as ignores the zone of control, so I can get to places that I really shouldn't get to. But we'll reach the ignore zone of control hero shortly. If this were a normal sea tank and didn't have butcher, it would not be able to do 17 points to this unit. What we find here is we have a base number of shots at 15. It is a 15 strength unit right here. We multiply that by the rapid fire 1.5, means we're getting 22 shots. Our base accuracy is 50. Bonus from experience, we get 30. Recons and planes, reduction from entrenchment, not much. So effective accuracy 93%. So we're going to hit 93% of 22 times, which is going to be enough to kill 16.99 of that unit. First of all, let's slaughter these guys. So with no recon, we're doing 112. What if we go like that? What happens? This is 115, 17. So this unit is entrenched a bit more so than that other unit was. So we'll go up here, we'll slaughter him. We'll go forward here and slaughter him. So here we are, we've butchered 3 of those infantry blob members. We have 1 left here, we have a 115. We would have taken, had we not had this butcher, that's adding +5 to our attack against infantry units. We would have been able to attack once, do, what was it, 15, 16 points, take 1 in return, and we'd be stuck there. That blob would still exist. With the butcher, we're now able to do a 115, which would be more like 110 or 111 without the butcher, if that. So now we can come up here and call in some more reinforcements and essentially obliterate that entire blob and take no damage at all. Here we have a fighter with the Gallant hero. It says aiming assistance. That's going to raise the 15 up to 16. And I believe that we can go ahead here now and bomb this character here for 1 point with the aiming assistance and overrun. So that blob is gone. In no small part, mostly due to the Butcher hero. That was a fairly mundane situation with that sea tank. Not a lot of high values. This on the other hand is it's a low tank late in the war. It has both the tank killer and rapid fire, and it has +2 heart attack awards. So that's gonna give its innate heart attack of 32 a 34, and then bump that to 39. Versus defense of 24. So 39 minus 24 is 15, meaning that each and every one of these rapid fire 22 shots is going to hit. 22 is greater than 18, therefore that unit is overrun. This T-44 tank is not going to fare much better. While its ground defense is better, it's still going to be 13 points worth of differential, meaning it too gone. Let's say I wanted to get down at these more potent units, IS-2 and then this IS-1. The IS-1 has 27 ground, IS-2 28, a little better. This character here in SU-100 has a ground defense of 26, a heart attack 30. Let's see what we can do against them. Not quite as good from the river. We can't completely obliterate this 85 tank. We're not doing as well against this IS-2 because of the support fire from the SU-100. Let's make this S-100 disappear. We can now head down here for a 1-7. Looks like we've taken a point. We may well just have to live through it. So we have this 18 against the IS-1 tank. The reason for that, and many of the other units we just killed, is the tank killer trait +5 right here. Gives us an effective attack of 39 versus the enemy's 27. It's a 12-point differential. Without that +5, we would only have the 7-point differential, meaning that 75% of our hits would turn to kills, various suppressions and deflections as well. Bottom line with all that, sparing you the math of it all, is that we would not have been able to overrun these units, and we would not be presently doing this or that. The Crippling Blow hero will behave exactly the same as the Butcher or Tank Killer, adding +5 to the attack value if the unit is completely fresh and undamaged. One of the tricks you can do is add Crippling Blow to Butcher or Tank Killer and add +10 to your attack value. It's quite useful against, say, the De Gaulle hero or any unit that has very high defensive values. The next hero is Entrenchment Killer 4. Quite simply, it deletes 4 entrenchment from any unit it attacks. It pairs up very well with the double attack, meaning you can delete 8 entrenchment. It's usually best on air units. We have an Entrenchment Killer 4 right here. I can send him up against this infantry. You'll note presently that our Verdage tank is doing nothing to this infantryman right here. And if we send our Entrenchment Killer up and delete 4 of this fellow's 10 entrenchment, it puts him at 6. And we're then doing 2-8. If we were to, say, bombard him, probably going to make it a bit more favorable, but not quite there. We can then drop rounds in like so, proceed up, and run him. What happened before all that is I used my artillery here to bombard this counter battery away, which would have counter batteried my 15 centimeter. If I had used my 21 centimeter against this entrenched unit, I would not have been able to, well, step forward one more click and eliminate this pesky counter battery that has caused players in Panzer Corps no slight bit of trouble over the years. So it's a fairly useful hero, which is why it's in the A tier. The Field Repairs Hero is also fairly straightforward. If your unit has an attack left at the end of the turn, it will give you 1 free pip of repair. If you have a double attack hero and you have that attack left, it will still give you a pip of repair. So with a double attack, you can attack once and repair 1 pip for free. It's very useful for limited stock, such as prototype units or captured units. Especially so in the Spanish Civil War, if you can pair up a double attack with field repairs on say 15 centimeters, which are sort of in short supply. It's quite useful in 40 and 41, 42 as well. 40 you can get G tanks, H tanks. They have that extra added heart attack for engaging the De Gaulle unit. Essentially in 42 you can use it on the Tiger 1 tanks, which become available with industrial connections. All around an A-tier hero, if for no other reason than you get the free prestige, where you don't have to spend the prestige to repair it. You can plop it on an anti-air weapon with fast deployment, and if you move your full movement and are still able to deploy, you will repair. If you're in organic form with this hero, I don't believe that you will get the free pip of repair. You have to be deployed. As I just said, it's very useful for anti-air weapons as they fire defensively or reactively. And if you have a field repairs hero on an anti-air weapon, you can move it. It can defensive fire, and as long as you don't have an offensive attack, you'll still repair at the end of your offensive turn or beginning of your defensive turn. The same can be said of anti-tank weapons. Rarely do they attack. As a matter of course, they sometimes will, but not as a standard operating procedure. So you can plop one on an anti-tank, and as long as it moves and is still in the deployed state, it will repair 1 pip. Next up is the fast rebase hero. I have it at A tier because I like air. It has long range. You can get from one side of the field to the next. In fact, you can fast rebase as many times as you please. Essentially, if you, at the beginning of your turn, you can rebase to another airbase and still have a full movement. You can rebase then again and again and again. It pairs up reasonably well with double move. For anything other than this nuclear bomber, I wouldn't pair fast rebase and double move, but in this case they pair up very well. You can pop a prudent on this thing if you don't want to lose it, which I didn't. It's a very useful unit. You can go out and essentially ignore the enemy's fighter cover. If you have the lightning attack, blow them to Kingdom Come. And then use your double move to rebase to a rear airbase. At the beginning of the next turn, you can use your fast rebase to move back forward and bomb again. I'm not exactly certain of the entrenchment level that those units had, but whatever it is, they are easily dispatchable. At this point, a whole lot are now gone. The next turn rolls over. You can fast rebase back up to a forward location and say bomb. I'll bomb this guy, so one as good as the next. We'll bomb you. And then we can double move back again here out of harm's way. In theory, with this, you wouldn't need the prudent. I have it on there anyway. So now we have already discussed tank killer. We arrive at artillery support and anti-tank support. Both of those offer a variety of support to units that would not otherwise have it. You could put both on a tank, which is very effective. It moves quite far. You can have an offense if you need it. It serves as both an anti-tank and an artillery piece, like a 15 centimeter that also has a high ground defense if it happens to be a tank. Both of those work very well in tandem. They also can fill in if you put artillery support on a 21 centimeter, which normally only has anti-tank support. It can support both varieties, which makes a couple of 21 centimeters very difficult to assail. So here's going to be a most potent example of the artillery and anti-tank combination. This Tiger 1 tank has a rapid fire readiness, and both of those heroes, I can plop him down, say right here on top of this hill. we can move all of these fragile, fairly challenging units. Normally you wouldn't want to put an anti-air whirlwind adjacent to a T-44 tank, but it's not going to end so badly for us because we have our support here from this Tiger tank. Let's just leave it at that and let the turn roll by and see what happens. Yeah, so essentially, well, nothing happened, which is exactly what we wanted. So to highlight it again, we're taking a 15-0 or 15-0. If we move our support tank out of the way here, it gets ugly for us fast. These units start getting overrun. That brings us to the envelopment hero. It elicits a surrender if you do 2/3 or more of the opponent's non-suppressed points to it. You have to usually round that up, so if you have, say, 8 non-suppressed points, you need to do 6 points of damage rather than 5. Cause the thing to surrender. It's reasonably useful without the overwhelming attack hero, but with the overwhelming attack hero, it's exceptionally so because overwhelming attack forces a retreat, and the envelopment forces a surrender at retreat. So that means that you won't have to do 2/3 of the damage. You just have to go up and tap the unit. You could do 1 point of damage. If you do the 1 point and the thing has no entrenchment, the enemy unit you're trying to surrender will retreat and it will surrender. Add no retaliation hero on top of that, and that's the trifecta. Envelopment works best if you can split your units most of the time, especially when it's in combination with the overwhelming attack. For instance, if I go down here, I still get to surrender this unit, but I really only get 1 point worth of surrender. If I would have been able to split my unit, I would have done less damage and received more prestige in return for the surrender. If you don't have overwhelming attack and you just have the envelopment hero, you really need to do more damage than not. For instance, here we would need to do at least 7 points of damage to surrender this unit, so 7, 9, it doesn't really matter. I just want it really out of the way. And then I have options available. I can send this Verdaja down here to say overrun that unit, or I could send this other envelopment overwhelming attack no retaliation hero up to extract some prestige from this unit. But really, it's not all that much prestige, right? There's only going to be 3 points left. I'd probably want to head over in this direction, try to surrender this anti-tank. So we'll just overrun this, proceed up in this direction, and then surrender that anti-tank there. We didn't take any damage in return because of our no retaliation. We got some prestige, and this tank no longer has the support it once did. For instance, if we were to go down here, we're taking 3-9 with this Verdaja tank, but with you gone, we take nothing and are able to carry on. So these envelopment heroes are quite useful, as you'll note, but they're only useful on the ground, whereas shock tactics, as previously noted, you can place on an artillery piece, strat bomber, or fighter, or whatever, really. Let's skip from envelopment to overwhelming attack, as it's related to the envelopment and shock tactics heroes. What it does is it forces a unit to retreat. The envelopment hero and the shock tactics, when a unit retreat, it surrenders. But the overwhelming attack hero can be quite useful by itself. This is early in the Spanish Civil War campaign, and I have the singular overwhelming attack on this recon car, which means it can get places where it shouldn't. I'm going to split this recon car here, proceed up, get the business end. The second split is always the one with the hero. Get the business end up here to where I'm going to take 3 points and do one. I'll split this recon car as well. I'll move this unit up here, forced march here. That's going to encircle this very, very difficult to damage BA-6 that has both a potent heart attack and a decent ground defense, so it'll do quite a bit of damage in return. We'll take a look at what would have happened with this unit if I had tried to engage it with my consolidated 1A tank rather than take the easy way out and simply surrender it for quite a bit of prestige as well. Had I not done any of that, I could have attacked into it with my 1A tank, taken 3 points and done 2. I would have inevitably followed up with my Panzer I Breda anti-tank unit with rapid fire. It's doing better, but still taking some damage, and then I will have moved and attacked that my anti-tank would be in a close terrain, and then I could send this one up for another 2 points, and still it wouldn't be destroyed. We went over the hit and run a bit earlier. Essentially, if you attack a unit and you have a higher initiative than they do, you'll take no damage in return. It's most useful in the air for reasons gone over earlier. You want to keep your air units as fresh as possible because they can't move and heal like a recon can move and heal. A tank can move, overrun a unit, and then repair, but air, you have to wait. So it's usually best on air units. Fairly straightforward. We have a hit and run on this 190A. Right here, when attacking enemy units with lower initiative, do not shoot back. So this attack bomber definitely does have a lower initiative, and it did not shoot back. It's as simple as that. You could attack with this anti-tank and the enemy would not shoot back either. Anti-tanks, a lot of people like to use these things as they have quite a high initiative. I usually leave my anti-tanks be for defense, but they can be used very well for offense if you have, say, an overrun hero and the hit and run. That brings us to lightning attack, which essentially allows any unit to attack without triggering any support fire. This scenario is a good example for lightning attack as well. Take, for instance, this unit here, 190F, with double attack and precision weapon, but no lightning attack. If I wanted to bomb any of these units, you'll note I'm taking a considerable amount of fire from the numerous anti-air that the enemy has. So we were taking a fair clip of fire from our non-lightning attack bomber we sent up. We know we have 3 of these anti-air units. We need to take those out before proceeding via the air. And this mobile one comes to mind as they tend to be a major pain. So that's done. We need to have these 285s gone. We can do that next turn and carry on. Lightning attack, very useful. Again, lightning attack on the ground works much the same as it does in the air. If you attack a unit and it has some sort of support fire, be it anti-tank, artillery, or both, you won't take any support fire, and you'll be able to attack that unit directly. It's quite useful with, say, Moore's entrenchment heroes and whatnot, flame tanks, in, say, a scenario like Stalingrad. This, we've done overwhelming attack. We go to strikes first. That's useful. It's both offensive and defensive. It's not quite as useful as hit and run because you can take some damage in return if you don't completely obliterate the unit on your first strike, but it also acts as a readiness hero. If some unit were to come and attack you, you will also strike before it does, so it's quite useful. It's certainly an A-tier hero and nothing to complain about at all. Vigilant hero is a very potent hero. It allows tanks and other units to use their ground defense for their close defense rating, meaning they can go to cities and mountains, hills, etc., swamps without taking any defensive penalties. You can also attack into city terrain much more readily than if you don't have it. It's generally defensive in nature. It's useful on anti-tank weapons, anti-air weapons, artillery pieces. It can be useful on tanks. You can send them into the cities. It's an all-around great hero to have, but generally it's more defensive than offensive, which is why I have it in the A tier rather than the S tier. In conclusion, Vigilant is a nice hero for placing units where they shouldn't be. As a perfect focal point of formations. It's nice for, say, a provocateur hero. If you need to get a provocateur into the close terrain so that you can draw some units to attack a fragile unit behind it, they would attack the fragile unit, be redirected to the provocateur, and if it were in close terrain but shouldn't be, they might do some damage to it, whereas it could also get blindsided by other areas of the field that aren't lit up. So it makes for a more pliable battlefield. You can also place an anti-tank hero, or like say a Sturmtiger late in the war in 44-45 with an anti-tank hero on it, where the Sturmtiger will have 6 rounds and be able to support against both soft and hard attacks. You can place the Sturmtiger in the middle of a city somewhere on the top of a hill where it really shouldn't be, and you don't have to worry about it because it's going to be a vigilant and it's going to have a 25 ground defense. We've made it to the B list. This is going to start moving faster. On the first on the B list here we find Distraction. Here's an example of the Distraction hero, which will cause enemy units next to this unit to not provide support fire. So if I were to attack into this Great Britain Engineers unit, I'd take 1 point and do 11, no overrun, and I'd be stuck there. If, however, I move over here, my Distraction will nullify this support fire, meaning that I can completely overrun this Great Britain Engineer and carry on. Second on the list here is Entrenchment Killer 3. It's exactly like the Entrenchment Killer 4 from the A tier, only it's going to deduct or delete 3 points as opposed to 4. Expert Support is nice. Not game-changing or anything. It's a plus 20% accuracy, which is nice on any given support unit. The Exterminator hero is maybe not so useful other than against the De Gaulle unit. Maybe it would be a C or an F tier. If a unit is more than 50% damaged, you get plus 5 attack against it. If a unit is that damaged, you probably don't need the plus 5 attack against it. But if a De Gaulle unit with Prudent trait is wounded, then that plus 5 comes in very handy. Here's an example from Epsom. The De Gaulle unit started at 20. So we note that the De Gaulle has a Prudent trait which gets a bonus for each point of lost strength, and that bonus, his ground defense should be 16, but you'll note here if we were to attack him, we have a 15 strength. Cut to the chase here, Prudent unit trait plus 10. So for each point of lost strength, the Prudent hero will add 1 to your defensive value or ground defense. So his is effectively 26. We'll cover the Prudent trait here as well. There's a way to attack De Gaulle. If you'll note here, we have Exterminator hero plus 5 attack against units below 50% strength. Is De Gaulle below 50% strength? We'll find out. As you'll note right here, this modded Panzer Jaeger has a 28 hard attack, so we're not getting any kind of bonus for De Gaulle being over 50% damaged. He is exactly 50% damaged. But if we were to, say, roll up with our 88 Flak 36 here, put 6 points into him, now he is over 50% damaged. He also is going to get more defense for his Prudent trait. So he now has an effective defense of 32. We have a base attack of 28, but we get the plus 5 for our Exterminator, giving us an effective attack of 33. So he is gone. If we were to do it the other way around, we would run into some serious problems with De Gaulle. I'll show you. What if we were to attack with our unit with the Exterminator first? Would we still be able to destroy De Gaulle with this highly potent heart attack of 28, Flak 36? No, we would do 2 and 2. Why is that? Because if we try to attack him, our base attack is 28, but his defense is 32. And the numbers come out that we're only killing 2.26. It's as simple as that. So use the Exterminator against units like De Gaulle, or if you have a a weaker tank, like, I don't know, a G tank that you have Exterminator on and you happen to run into an IS-1 or 2 or whatnot, it'll probably actually be able to do some damage as opposed to ping. So it's not a useless hero. It's very useful for De Gaulle. It's more of a, do I really want to take up that hero slot and place the Exterminator at other times? But it's useful. That brings us to Fast Learner. I have it on the B tier. It's a nice hero. It's most useful for the training scenarios. You get double experience and you can get anti-tanks up to full strength, or fighters up to 4 or 5 stars from nothing. And in the field, it's certainly not bad. If you have an extra hero slot, place it down, you'll accrue experience at twice the rate. Fearsome Reputation. It's a very nice hero. In Spanish Civil War and say 39, it's probably an A tier hero if you're running the Kleptokrieg. You get into 40 and beyond, it's like, well, yeah, you stop playing the suppression game so much, because if you take the time to encircle the enemy, you're essentially going to take horrendous amounts of fire from vectors. You don't even know from where, the air, the side, out of the fog of war. Something will mess up your plans, and when it goes bad, late in the war, it goes very badly, because IS-2s and such tend to overrun weaker units that you're trying to work an encirclement with. But Fearsome Reputation in Spanish Civil War in 39 is very nice. Not that it's completely useless later in the war. In the Grand Campaign, this is Operation Blue from the base game. It can work as well. This is a nice tank, 3442. You'll know this major river is stopping it from traveling in this direction. I have a Fearsome Reputation hero here, which adds +3 suppression. And this unit here has 3 suppression points now out of 10. So if I were to say swing up this way and then say like that and move up here, I could click this button and let a turn roll by and collect a fair clip of prestige. Let's find out. So it's my turn again. He went from 3 up to 10. He got 4 for the Deadly Grass and another 3 for this. So he really would have only had 4 had he not already had the 3 from Fearsome Reputation hero, and then he got another 3. Now I can split this unit here, and we have 9551 at present, so we have 9866 now, and he's gone. The key to Fearsome Reputation is time. If you have extra time, you can arrange it so as to extract a lot of prestige. If you don't, it's not such a useful hero. The Prudent hero, we went over that with the De Gaulle combat we just went over. For each point that you have lost, you'll get +1 to your ground defense. It's good for defense. The lower you go, the more challenging it is to damage the unit. It's good for saving units. Again, it's defensive, not particularly useful. There are some interesting things that you can do with it, but nothing game-changing. The most game-changing is this. You can plop down a Prudent hero on a fragile recon plane. This one is going to add 1 point for each point down that the plane is. So it started as an overstrength 15 here. It now has an effective air defense of 10. If it takes another 5 points, that's going to go up to 15. If you send this thing out, you can do a couple of things at once. You can, number one, you can scout places that you don't know. Like say we don't know what's up here, now we do. These guys know that this plane is there, and this plane is going to act like a magnet and suck any plane. They're going to go there and they're going to attack. And the more they attack it, the more damage they do, the more resistant it becomes. Other than that, you know, just a simply defensive in nature. Unit will be more hardy. You need to heal them up at some point. Nothing really game-changing. You can plop it, pair it with Avenger. That's another hero. I believe it's a tier down, C tier. The more damaged a unit is, the more damage it will do. So you can sort of keep a unit running with Prudent and Avenger. This brings us to the Aiming Assistance hero. It's very easy to miss the utility or usefulness of this hero. It adds 10% accuracy to any adjacent friendly units. Can be used in the air or on the ground. I generally tend to use it on the ground, although if I happen to have one on the air, such as a Galland hero, I take it as well. Here's a scenario that can demonstrate the utility of an Aiming Assistance hero fairly effectively. They're best used in tandem with other recon cars, but sometimes you don't need to. Take, for instance, this attack against this red guard here by my G-Tank. This unit has aiming assistance, which is going to add 10% to the accuracy of all adjacent friendly units. So I don't necessarily have to get him adjacent to the attacking unit here. It's a recon car, so we'll go up and do some normal recon activities right here, and we're gonna up this with our recon to the 15 from 14, meaning it's an overrun and this unit can carry on. But let's say that this unit wasn't going to be able to make that attack and we would want to use this Tiger 1 instead. There's a 1-8 there. So you note this unit has only moved one, so it's going to move another. Now maybe I want to swing up here this way, or maybe I want to go over that way. It just depends on the situation. In this one, I want to conserve my movement, which is the bottom line. So now I'm doing 1-9. This was just 1-8 because I'm adjacent. This Tiger tank is adjacent to this aiming assistance recon car. It's not giving any recon bonus, but it is offering the aiming assistance, as you'll note right there. So what I can do is I can swing this other recon car up and get adjacent to this tank, and now I believe that I should be able to overrun it. And this aiming assistance recon car is still able to head up in this direction and say offer some assistance to this Panther that's going to overrun this heavy tank. Which brings us to Ignore's zone of control. Okay, the Ignore zone of control hero is fairly straightforward. What it does is allows you to ignore the zone of control projected by enemy units when moving. This unit has the artillery support hero, and in this aspect of the scenario, there's often quite a bit of trouble down here. It looks to have passed, but there can be quite a bit of infantry there. And let's say, for instance, that there were a bunch of infantry there, and I needed to get this artillery support to this hex. With the Ignore zone of control, I can move it all the way down here, passing through this zone of control, 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 and finally ending up here. So every single hex except the last one is interdicted by an enemy unit's zone of control. This one projects here and here, this one projects here, and this one projects here and here. So if there were a critical need for this unit to be there, it would be there. Readiness hero is pretty straightforward. If a unit is attacked, it will fire first. Very useful on artillery pieces. Decent on the air, depending on the unit. Not overly useful, generally speaking, as it's defensive. I would certainly not complain about getting it. Sometimes placing it can be a burden relative to other heroes that you could place on the unit. Reduced slots is much the same dynamic as readiness. It's nice, but sometimes having more units is less. It's what I call unit clutter. You can have too many units on the field and you can get in your own way. It rarely happens, but it is possible. Sometimes it's better to just have a unit with offensive heroes, say a double attack, ignores entrenchment, and lethal on a bomber, as opposed to having the reduced slots. The reduced slots hero is going to reduce the core slots necessary to deploy the unit by 50%. This brings us to fast deployment, a very useful hero. Here's an example from a mod where all of the 7.5 centimeter units have the fast deployment, so I can move and fire. It's also quite useful on infantry units. This is a grenadier. It has ignores entrenchment and fast deployment. We can go up here and destroy all of these very fragile and very difficult to deal with support units, leaving us with no ammunition, but we got there. That's quite some ways, and we are able to move, say, a double support unit up onto this fortification to support this unit. We could also move up here and offer support with our artillery piece. So now, if these units want to attack, they can't. and all those support units are gone. That brings us to the end of the B tier heroes. Legendary here, it grants 50 prestige per turn. I don't have a high opinion of heroes that grant you prestige, legendary, and famous. I generally don't have a lot of trouble gaining prestige, either via surrender or by not taking any damage. So the need for prestige relative to the slot allocation on any given unit is low, so I generally ignore these things. Oftentimes I won't place them at all. The last of which is Overrun. You just saw that in the Grenadier. Overran those 4 support units earlier. Infantry normally don't overrun or have the steamroller trait. It's exactly the same as if you placed it on armor. You can place the Overrun hero on any unit. Infantry, recon, anti-tank, you name it. Once they accrue 20 overruns, they get the steamroller trait. Functions exactly the same as the tank. So we have arrived at the C tier heroes. They're numerous, they're fairly potent, they're not irrelevant or anything. Am I going to show them in any great detail? Probably not. I'll just basically call them up on screen. First on the list is aggressive counterattack. It's a simple +3 when defending, so if you're attacked and when you do attack back, you'll add +3 to your attack value. Next up is the Avenger hero. You're going to get +1 attack for each point of damage that you've taken. It works exactly like Prudent, only this one is for offense. A Prudent and Avenger work well with one another, as the more the unit is damaged, the more defensive value the Prudent will give and the more offensive value this Avenger will offer. If you play with a high randomness value, this hero can be quite useful. I usually stick to 10%, so I never get it. But if you do choose to place this hero, the combat results can never be worse than predicted. Another hero, C tier, is a flag killer. If there's a flag in the hex, you get +5 attack. Usually useful with infantry or air. It can be useful on other units, but it takes up a hero slot, and unless you're running 4 heroes, it generally is not particularly useful. You probably want to place other heroes. Not that it's bad, it's just it doesn't really come up all that terribly often to where it's repeatable enough to where it's useful on a hero as often as you'd like, which is why it's C. It's not bad, it's not good, it's just sort of there. Next up is Learns from Mistake. It's like Fast Learner, only this one only works if you take damage or suffer casualties. It's not useful in training scenarios, but is quite useful in combat if you have an extra slot. It's decent for recon cars as if they need the help. If you're running a lot of units, happen to have an extra hero slot available, plop it on, it's not bad. This unit is useful on, say, infantry or anything with a lack of movement, like an artillery piece. If an artillery piece or an infantry starts getting banged around and retreats from one place to the next, if it happens to end up on a river hex in a swamp and then it gets popped again and it'll have to move again, it will surrender. It's a good way to lose a 5-star unit. This one will stop that from happening. The problem is that, like say on an infantry, you could place a hero that adds +1 or +2 movement, or arrange it so that you don't end up in that sort of situation, aka you can have support or whatnot. So the no surrender becomes, in theory, quite useful, but in practice, if you play the game carefully enough or have enough experience to where you know what will happen in certain situations, it becomes less than relevant. It's generally speaking a defensive hero, and they're just not as good as the offensive ones. This brings us to superior maneuver. We get +1 initiative for each point of movement advantage over the enemy. Attack bombers tend to move quite a ways. You can get some initiative, but they have low initiative to begin with. Not overly useful. Next is thorough preparation. I believe on the first turn of any given scenario, it will offer +5 initiative, which can be a big deal. And then on the next turn, it goes down to +4, +3, +2, +1, and then it essentially becomes useless. It's not a bad hero, it's just not useful for very long, and it takes up a hero slot again. Oftentimes, initiative is not such a big deal. Like say in the air, you want to have, in a perfect world, no retaliation or hit and run heroes, and on the ground, you probably want to suppress or completely overrun a unit, so the initiative becomes less than relevant. Next up is unyielding. It can be a negative. It generally is useful on, say, artillery pieces or infantry or whatnot, but if, much like the no surrender hero, you have to place the unyielding hero on the unit, and then it can start getting attacked again and again and again because it won't move. If an infantry is standing there and a unit attacks it, it will take damage as well as suppression and generally retreat behind the lines. But if it just won't take any suppression and doesn't retreat, it will sit there, and you can get a 15 overstrength unit down to, say, 6 points, and then very interesting things can start to happen. You can get overrun, completely destroyed, or forced to retreat because someone does 4 of its 6 points, and now it's only 2 points, and then boom, your unit is gone. So I generally stay away from this unyielding, maybe on artillery, but I've lost an infantry because of it, and I just don't place it anymore. Tenacious Defender is +1 defense for each adjacent enemy unit. It's not bad. I rarely know that it's there. I'm sure it's helped me. I couldn't tell you exactly where or when. I pay no mind to it. If I have an extra slot available, I'll place it down. The Evasive Hero, minus 10% accuracy to enemies shooting at this unit. Again, I couldn't tell you exactly why I like this, say, more so than another unit. I tend to place it, though. I see there's some value. I place it on a recon car if I have a slot. But generally, it's defensive, so it's not nearly as useful, which is why it's in the C category. If you have an open slot, place it. It might do some good. What good? Unless you're meticulous about checking the numbers and the combat calculations, who really knows? Sort of the opposite of one of those aiming assistance heroes we just went over. Next up is Famous. If you have a Famous hero just out there, I generally don't like it. If I happen to have a Famous on a infantry and have +2 speed as well, there's a bonus right there. The +2 speed, as I was going over with the no surrender, comes into play because this unit could perhaps surrender, get ping-ponged around a little bit before surrendering. This unit here, you rarely have problems with prestige, so maybe just leave this one at home. As you'll note here, it's not placed. Here's another unit I haven't placed, a Liberator, ×2 prestige for all captured flags. Like, yeah, first of all, you have to have this particular unit, usually on a recon car, dedicated to capturing flags, whereas recon cars really should be offering reconnaissance, so your tank can overrun a unit or 2 or 3 or 5, as opposed to wandering off to get, I don't know, ×2 the prestige, whatever a flag is worth. It's a sideshow and probably harmful to your overall strategy if you concentrate on this, as opposed to what I mentioned previously of getting the overruns. Leadership is another one of those. Well, it's there, +1 initiative to all adjacent friendly units. I've never really noticed it. I place it on units every now and again. Does it do any good? It probably does. It must. +1 initiative. Do I notice it? No. It's a C tier. It's not bad. It's just not something you pay attention to. Last on the C tier is River Assault. It can be very useful. It's probably the best of the C tier heroes, although, well, if you place it on, say, an anti-air or an anti-tank and artillery to one degree or the next, you can place it on a river and you won't get into trouble. Anti-air specifically, sometimes the space is tight to where an anti-air has to be on a river, and if it has River Assault, it will fire properly. You can also place it on a River Assault tank or whatnot. You could go on to a river tile and fire across it and take no malice. Sometimes it's very important, but usually you want to make those river crossings supported by artillery or bombers of one degree or the next, as opposed to just hammering it out with a River Assault unit. That brings us to the final F tier. Starts with counter battery. It allows a given artillery piece to fire back and act as a counter battery, much as the same as the heavy artillery at 21 centimeters have. The problem is that if it were had the range for a counter battery, it would probably have it. If you have a 15 centimeter, maybe it has a place doing it, maybe not. probably best for support mechanisms as opposed to counter battering. And then there's the limited number of hero slots available. Usually if you're going to have a Premier 15 that's going to be useful for various activities such as support fire and or offense, you want to have a fast deployment hero maybe, and a lethal attack, maybe a double attack. That leaves no hero slots for counter battery. Again, if it were meant to have counter battery, it would. A ferocious defense, enemy cannot ignore the entrenchment. Again, it's defensive. It's not only defensive, but it assumes that you're going to be entrenched. As to where you're going to come up with the time to become entrenched, or if you do come up with the time, why that's relevant to anything, I couldn't say. That's why it's an F tier. I mean, it can be useful under very, very tight set of circumstances, but generally speaking, useless. Fierce Fighter, I've never been able to make this work. I don't know whether it's just me or whether it's somehow bugged or something. I don't really know. I forget that it's even there. I never noticed that I have the extra attack. Maybe if there were a light that would bing, 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 or a noise or something that would alert me to the fact that I have another attack coming, but I always forget. I never pay it any mind, and I put it in the F tier. Maybe it's not, maybe it's higher, I don't know. First aid for infantry, if you move and are not in organic transport, aka are fully deployed, you'll heal 1 pip. Infantry are generally cheap. They're also not particularly effective, so you have to augment them with heroes. There are a lot of offensive infantry heroes available. A lot of them will add to movement. A lot of them will add to initiative. You can have a butcher one or whatnot. First aid, there's no room for it, so it's not a bad hero. It's, again, just sort of defensive and not really worth much of anything. Sixth Sense, useful for recon planes. You know, other than that, I find it's taxing. The recon planes get shot down. You inevitably have to place the Sixth Sense hero again. It gets shot down again. You place it again. I just leave it alone. I have usually just delete the damn things. On the ground, you don't need them on a recon car, as recons have phased movement, and on the ground you never want to send a tank or any other sort of unit off into the unknown, so there's no need to have Sixth Sense. It's essentially useless. Resilience to defensive, you can't take more than half of your unit's damage. If it's a 15, I think you can take no more than 7 points. It's not bad, it's just defensive. That's going to do it for this hero ranking tier list. Again, this is to my preference. Could you lower, say, fast rebase down to a C? Yeah, you could put it down to a B or a C. Could you raise legendary or famous up a click or two? It's possible, depending on how much you raise your randomness settings, or how much you like bloodying yourself with the enemy. I don't know. It just depends on your play style and skill levels. These are set for mine. That's all really that I know. I could have gone for a longer set of explanations. This circumstance or that circumstance, this, that. It ends up being a long video. This one's already over an hour as it is. Could have gone on and on for all these various sets of circumstance. I hope you find some use out of it, and hope to see you in the next Let's Play.